My name is Tony. I am 40-year-old. I live in Panhandle, Texas. I live with my parents. They have a huge house, loads of money, a huge farm beside it, a ton of animals, and I am the only golden son. Did I get it all just like that? No. My father made sure that I worked for it. I was 12-year-old when I started working on the farm, same as my father. I went to school, became a high school wrestler, won a few competitions, and later started working on my farm. I wanted to become a bad boy biker when I was a teenager. I even got myself the leather jacket with spikes and the biker boots. There were days that I used to get dressed up and look in the mirror and imagine myself as that awesome biker riding the long roads on Texas highways. My dad never allowed me to get the bike. He said that real men ride bulls, not machines. He gifted me a Ford truck when I graduated from my school. I did find myself riding the biggest bull we had on our farm, Bodacious. He was a gentle giant. He was named after a famous bull that my father saw at a rodeo. He was almost 1,800 pounds of pure muscle. He used to run towards me every time I was near him, not to gore me, but to check my hands. I got sugar cubes for him every day. I was 24-year-old when he died of old age. I never allowed my dad to sell him for meat. He was buried on the farm, and I put up a tree where he was buried. I had a simple life: wake up, feed the animals, go around the farm, make sure that farmland is watered, crops are fine, and in the evening go to local bar and get a beer. I never had a serious relationship with any girl. I did have a girlfriend in high school, but that did not work out. She stated that I am just a big bull and I will never be someone famous. Well, I am 6'4", almost 280 pounds. I don't have a lot fat on me. I work hard on the farm, lifting heavy. Besides, I was wrestling till I was 19-year-old, so I am somewhat jacked. I was 26-year-old when I met Linda. We met at a local livestock show. She was a paid host at the livestock show. She was dressed as a milkmaid and was standing near his nice-looking cow. I went near and jokingly asked, "Is it ready to mate?" She stepped near and responded, "Depends on the bull." I asked for her number, and the very next day, I called her for a date. One date led to another, and one of the dates ended in our barn. She spent the night with me, and I was really happy. After 7 months, I introduced her to my parents. My father was happy, and my mother was not. She did not like her, as she wanted her son to date a girl who knows working in the farms. Linda was just a normal girl who never stepped on a farm. Although my mom did not like her, she never tried to discourage me from dating her. She did tell me that I need to tread carefully with her. She is not going to last long in a farm. I did think about it, but then I hope that Linda will get used to it. She moved in with me in our family home. Although there was not a lot of connection between my mother and Linda, that just got along fine. The farm was working fine and the money was good. Linda accustomed herself to the farm. We had our first son, Dillian, 2 years after our marriage. Our second son, Romeo, was born 2 years later. Both my kids, like me, are big. They are bigger than other kids at school. My parents were now enjoying their retirement and busy traveling the world. They were out traveling for almost 9 months out of 12. It was about 8 years into our marriage when things started to go a bit haywire. The intimacy had reduced and we were talking a bit less. Was it the hormones? With age, sex drive does go down. I did talk to Linda, but she stated that it's nothing and everything was fine. We used to go out on vacations often, but had not been on vacations for last 1 year. Both my kids were trying football. They were good at it. I used to be busy at the farm, so my wife used to drop them to school and take them to the football practice. It was a few weeks after our discussion that I found that Linda had started dressing a bit nice. Floral skirts, thighs visible, her cleavage out. I enjoyed this. The intimacy was back, and it was back with a bang. She was the real Texan cowgirl. This is where I messed up. I never read the signs. Shorter dress, sudden sex drive, more trips to the football practice. My parents returned a few days later. My father was not doing well. I guess it was his last trip now. He was soon moved to a hospital. He had cancer and doctors advised him to stay near the hospital. So my parents moved out and rented a house near the hospital. The kids were not very happy looking at their grandfather like that. I had to explain the life and death cycle, and it was a nice evening with them. Next day, they had their football practice, and Linda went with them. I was still a bit worried for the kids, so I decided to surprise them at the practice. I reached the place, and I saw both my kids dressed up and doing the rounds. I could not see Linda. It was a bit odd. A few minutes passed. I still could not see Linda. I had to pee so into the men's room. I walked through the building's corridor, and it was a bit isolated. I reached the men's toilet, and I could hear moans. I smiled and walked in to pee. It was a closed stall. Harder, harder, yes, right there, smash it hard, make me explode. That was my wife. That explode thing was the key for her to climax. I stepped away from the urinal and walked into a stall, closed the door, and waited for them to come out. I wanted to confirm that it is indeed my wife. I peeped out. I was right. It was my wife, and a guy who looked like a coach. They came out and fixed their clothes. My wife smiled and stated that it was awesome. You made me explode. Then she pushed her tongue in the guy's mouth. The guy moved his hand all over her and right back into her panties. They soon got back into the stall for round 2. I was there watching my beloved wife getting pumped for the second time, right in front of my eyes. I walked out of the stall. I wanted to make sure that no one is left breathing after I am done. As I walked close and was about to break open the door, my mind stated, too much to lose if I do it here. I held back and walked out, stepped in my truck, went to the farm. That evening I sat under the tree I planted and saw the sun go down. I was raging. My veins were throbbing and I was beyond angry. I was angry at myself for allowing them to do it again and not doing anything there. Acting rash could land me in jail. I called my mother and told her what I saw. She went silent and stated that we will talk in the morning and asked me to come and meet her. She also asked me to go home and make sure that I don't do anything rash. I went home and saw my wife. My blood boiled. I went to the bedroom, changed my clothes, and went to the study room. I did not sleep in my room that day. Linda did come to see me, but I pretended to be asleep. Next morning I went to meet my mother. She sat down and handed me a cup of coffee. She brought out a piece of paper and started writing. You don't have any property in your name. Everything is mine and your father's. You don't have a joint account with your wife. No money is lost there. I want you to transfer all your money from your account to mine immediately. Do you understand? I nodded. She asked me to hire a private investigator and start the investigation. Every bit of information is required for your divorce. Everything that she said was already in my mind, but the only thing that was bothering me was the custody of my kids. I still needed to figure that out. She told me that starting tomorrow I needed to drive the kids to school and to football practice, try to separate Linda and her affair partner, make them desperate and let them make mistakes. I did the same. Linda was a bit hesitant, but I did not let her talk. I told her that I wanted to spend time with the kids, and is there a problem? She had no answer and agreed. Meanwhile, I had put up CCTV across the farm, my house, and had installed a spyware in Linda's phone. The private investigator was already looking into her affair partner. After a week, I met the private investigator. He explained that the affair partner, Jeff, is married and has 3 kids. He also shared the texts from my wife's phone. As per their texts, they were getting a bit desperate to meet and drill. They had planned to meet at my house the next Sunday when I am supposed to take the kids to meet my parents. I called my attorney and sent him the text and asked him to start the divorce proceedings. So, Jeff is going to step on my land and fuck my wife and leave. I have 4 days for his ultimate welcome. I'll make sure that for rest of their lives, they will never forget this Sunday. I asked my PI to get the contact details of the AP's wife. I need to send a special text. Sunday, I left the house with my kids. Linda faked a headache and stayed back. I reached my parents and then left back for the farm. I saw a truck parked a few meters from the driveway. I parked beside it and walked into the house through the back door. I went in my father's room, picked up his double-barreled shotgun, put two in the barrel, and walked out of the house towards the farm. I logged into the cameras and saw my wife on all fours and Jeff playing the bull. I sent a message to his wife, a link with the live footage of the camera feed. After 5 minutes, I got a message. "He is dead to me. If you know him, tell him not to come back home." I smiled and said to myself, he sure won't be going back home, at least not today. I opened a door in the barn. I let my dogs out. They licked me, and one of them suddenly then ran toward the house. Most of them followed him. I guess they smell an intruder. In about 15 seconds, I heard my wife screaming, "My dogs do not like her." I was standing outside the barn, and then I saw a naked man jump out of my bedroom's window. I opened another door and walked a few steps away. You see, Bodacious had many kids. I kept one of them with me. Unlike his father, he does not like humans near him. Now for Jeff to reach his truck, he needs to walk by the barn. I hid in the bush nearby. I saw him naked and limping his way out. I heard my dogs now trying to get him again. They were about 20 yards from him, but then they just stopped. Even Jeff was surprised. He looked around, and without warning, he got gored. He was in the 10 feet in the air and fell with a thump. I came out and fired in the air. The bull ran back in the barn. I closed his door and came back near Jeff. He was still in pain and was trying to get up. I walked towards him, held him up. He just looked up and said, "Thank you, man. You saved my life." As soon as his sentence was over, I exploded on him. I let my hands respond to his courtesy. I kept beating him till I felt that he can take no more. I got up and then landed 2 more kicks just for good measure. By the time I was done, he was unconscious and was bleeding. I called 911. The emergency services arrived and picked him up and drove him to the hospital. I told the cops that I saw this guy running around naked on my property, and I thought this is some pervy who came for some weird action with my animals. The cops asked me to come to the police station for my statement. My attorney also arrived there. We left the police station and went to my house. I found my wife sitting in the bedroom and crying. The attorney started recording all of that on his phone. I handed her the divorce papers and asked her to leave the house. She took the papers and tried to talk. I can explain. I held up my hand. I don't need any explanations. We can discuss everything in the court. My kids had to be sent to their mother. I did not go and meet her after that. We met at the court a few months later. She was there with her attorney and looked like a mess. Seemed that she had aged years and months. My attorney played the videos of her cheating on me and shared the texts. Her attorney did not contest and stated that they were in for the divorce, but wanted 50% of my property. My attorney stated that the only money I had was around $2,000 in my personal account. He stated that since I work on the farmland, I get paid as a labor and per hour. He stated that I am ready to pay alimony as per my income. I saw the judge smile and then asked me to pay $800 to my wife as a 60-40 division of assets and pay $200 as child support and alimony. Linda was livid. She started screaming and jumped to hit me. She slapped me across the face while I was sitting in my chair. I got up and was about to land one on her jaw, but I saw my mother hold her from her hair and throw her down. The cops intervened and held her down. I was surprised at my mom's strength. She looked at me and said, "Yes, you got it from me." The divorce was finalized and I was a free man. 3 weeks down the line, I had my lawyer meet Linda. What I offered is that give up to the kids so that they can stay with my parents at their home. My house is big and is good for the kids as Linda does not work as of now. It is easy on her as well. Linda would get a good amount for the same. I knew she will take the easy road. She did. I got the custody of my kids. My parents paid for the amount. It was all done out of court. Linda left the town after getting the amount. Jeff was not very lucky. The dogs bit him multiple times. The bull broke his ribs, and after I was done with him, he had concussion, broken orbital bones, missing front teeth. He will take months to recover. He did not file any complaints against me. I also made sure to talk to the school management about his actions with my wife, and they promptly let him go. His wife filed for divorce and left him homeless. She made him pay alimony and child support. I hope my wife was worth his trouble. I guess things did explode for him. I got myself a custom bike, new jacket, and new boots. My father gave me the money for it. As per him, it was a parting gift. Until next time.